Joining us right now to talk about that is a man who is almost literally off the plane from Syria. I have the pictures of him here dining there and shaking hands with folks there. And actually, the pictures I'm looking at are actually from Turkey. But Paul E. Vallely, General, Major General, retired U.S. Army, and of course, he is the chairman of Stand Up America. Our friend joins us. Hey, General, how are you, sir?
Steve, flew from Turkey yesterday, so having been gone for over 2 weeks, it's good to be back home.
Well, I'm sure it is, but it must have been quite I don't know, quite an educational experience and historical feeling of experience to be there while all this has taken place and in the run-up to a strike against Syria. Tell me what you found, and tell me what you believe, and tell me most importantly, General, how do we know that it's the Assad government that used the chemical weapons and not just, you know, the collection of rebels, including Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, and some say even some who were responsible for the Benghazi attack on our embassy that actually staged it? Well,
I think, Steve, your question prompts what other media are asking, and putting the blame on the opposition forces is exactly what the Assad government does. They use deception and psychological operations using the media to throw the blame on others when they do something. I was over there in Syria last week, and when the chemical attacks happened and the reports came directly to the Free Syrian Army commanders, the generals and colonels I was with, that the district had been hit in Damascus, but it was a district where the FSA was actually forging ahead more into the other districts in Damascus. And Assad, of course, the only trump card he has now left, since he doesn't control most of the geography in Syria, is to use the Air Force and then to use the chemical weapons, as he's done on 4 other previous occasions. So it was him. There's no doubt about that. I was there. I vetted out, the different stories that were coming out, and I can tell you the Free Syrian Army wouldn't do anything against the Syrian people because that's who they're standing forward with and standing up for.
Okay, so what now do you recommend if you had the ear of the president and you could call the shots, let's say? What would you recommend the U.S. in conjunction with their allies do?
Well, first of all, this man over there is just as bad as Hitler. Over 100,000 people killed so far, a lot of children. The fact you'd use gas on your own people and attack them indicates that the international community needs to take charge and do something. They laid back with Hitler, and look what happened. So you have a similar situation here of a tyrannical government that is innocently slaughtering its own people. So we don't need boots on the ground, but here's what the Free Syrian Army commander said. Number one, Assad will fall very quickly if the Air Force is neutralized. So the recommendation I would make immediately to the president, you've got to take out the capability of the Air Force over there. Second, as Brett Stevens wrote in his article yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, symbolically, you got to take out the palace. And those are the only targets they need to take out. That changes the whole ball game over there.
All right, and how will it change it? Because we've been told by at least the spokespeople for our government that the object is not to is not regime change here, but to send a message and to punish Assad for what he did. So what will that accomplish, do you believe, if they do what you urge them to do?
It stops Assad. It takes him down. I got a report in. He's already left with his family for Tehran this morning.
So you're saying that Assad, as far as your sources tell you, he's gone. He's in Tehran.
Yes, that's what I got this morning from some sources over there. But he is backed into a corner now. He needs to be taken down by his own people, and that's all they need is a little support. And so I think the international community would best be served to make sure the Air Force is neutralized And the command over there, the Free Syrian Command, they're not radical Islamists. They do not want a Sharia Islamic state. They truly want a secular freedom and justice government. So with that in mind, the question always comes up, who do you sort out over there? I am the only one that's been on the ground to vet everybody. I've met with the Muslim Brotherhood, with Al Jazeera, a press conference over there. So I've completely vetted the good guys from the bad guys.
All right, we're talking to General Paul E. Vallely, U.S. Army, retired, chairman of Stand Up America, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Before I go on, I just want to do you have faith in those sources? Do you believe that when push comes to shove, we'll find out that Assad has already left?
Well, sure. That's
okay.
When you go over and vet and meet with people eye to eye.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm just asking you to get it on the record officially on the air here.
Nobody else has done that.
Okay, now let me ask you this.
Sure.
We've heard threats. If in fact he's gone, or if in fact he's there, what are their capabilities to retaliate? In other words, we've heard that they'll defend their country. We've heard threats from Iran that Israel will suffer the first strike in retaliation for any intrusion into Syria. Of course, if Iran is involved and they wanted to, everyone was so worried and is so worried that if Israel ever bombed Iran, that Hezbollah would be unleashed here into our streets and our shopping malls. I mean, what do you think we could expect to see as a result of an attack against Assad in Syria as far as Israel and the U.S. is concerned?
Well, if you do those two things, Russia's not going to do anything. Iran will try to do some things with more threats. They could release some of their cells to do things that they have through Hezbollah, through their proxy there. Israel is prepared to take action, and they can take care of themselves. So I don't see the situation escalating that greatly. But it will escalate if we don't help and take Assad down, because Syria is critical right now, and if it can go the right way with the Free Syrian Army, then that will be a dagger into the heart of Iran and Russia.
Okay.
Because if we don't do anything, and as they suspect, we'll just probably do a Band-Aid thing. Obama will look like he's doing something, but he really won't get to the root of the problem and solving it.
Right. So if he does something that doesn't go as far as you would like them to go, and it's something symbolic in nature, and doesn't get rid of Assad, then what do you think will happen then? Will it strengthen Assad in the end?
Well, sure, it keeps him in there. He's going to go down eventually anyhow. It's a question of when. So the Syrians, the generals that I met with, and the colonels, and some of the civilian people who have defected out of the government said basically they feel if Obama and the United States does nothing, that's going to mean that they're actually supporting the Muslim Brotherhood as they did in Egypt and are supporting the regime. And that's the way the Free Syrian Army, representing the Syrian people, feel. So there you go. They're smart people over there. They're no dummies. They see exactly what's happening.
And so what kind of government, if Assad goes...
Secular government.
It'll be a secular government. Why will this situation be different than, the vacuums that were filled in Libya and Egypt, for instance?
It's entirely different. They're not even comparable. Egypt had to do what it had to do, and I'm very proud of the Syrian or the Egyptian military being able to offset the moves of the Muslim Brotherhood, who are trying to establish Islamic states, radical Islamic states throughout the Middle East. And so that's why General Sisi in Egypt had to stand up. Now what's happened is the Muslim Brotherhood are refocusing in Syria, hoping to be able to use that as the next jump-off point for radical Islam control of a country. And the Free Syrians will, in fact, take out the radicals. They don't want them there. They want freedom. They want an open market. They have civilians, professors, engineers ready to go in and to fill the very important jobs in a new government. That's where their focus is.
And the secular,
that's who we ought to support.
And the secular government will honor treaties with Israel and will establish relations with the U.S. and will be a friendlier government. Will no longer be a satellite. Will no longer be a satellite of Iran.
That's exactly right. And the three generals that I talked to, very high level, who defect from the Assad government, will in fact negotiate the return of, and they want negotiated on the Golan Heights, and they're willing to work with Israel. They admire the American people. They see the American government is very ineffective, very weak, and they know Assad, the Russians, and Iran will continue to roll over the region and control and dominate if nothing is done. So it'll get worse if we do nothing.
And tell me why you believe, finally, General, I think the poll shows 9% of Americans believe we should get involved in Syria. Tell me why you believe that the United States has a role to play and should involve itself militarily in Syria.
Well, first of all, you have two of our enemies over there, Russia and Iran, who are doing everything to weaken the United States, and our government is really helping them out. We don't have any respect anymore. But again, from a humanitarian standpoint, even the United Nations resolutions of having governments kill their own people is in violation of international laws. So from that aspect, do you do nothing? Do you let him continue? I say not. And again, we can do it just by support of the proxies over there, and the proxy being the Free Syrian Army. They control 2/3 of the geography now. Assad's army and government controls Latakia province, the province of Tartus, where the Russian ships are, and about half of Damascus. I went 250 kilometers inside Syria. The Free Syrian Army has all the checkpoints. You don't see any of Assad's army out anywhere. No police. So the idea that Assad has lost almost all of the country now, and basically he's held up, of course, in his palace area with his what we call the Palace Guard, and it's about a brigade-sized unit, but they're very capable.
Right, but not if he's not there anymore. Then he's
That's
not.
right.
Yeah, then he's not held up. General, as always, your fascinating insight comes from firsthand experience and knowledge, and I give you all the credit in the world for traveling to that region and pursuing the facts on the ground as only you have done. And it's always a pleasure and an honor to speak with you, sir.
Thank you, Steve. And I'd say everybody can go to the StandUpAmericaUS.org website, and they'll see the pictures in our report on that was posted today.
Stand Up America US website and .org. StandUpAmericaUS.org. And we should all check that out. Thank you, General.
All right, Steve.
Take